start recording and then we'll get started. Okay, so today's tutorial will focus on pandas and problems that we will solve using pandas entirely. Again, I have updated your tutorial document and added a link to the data set that we will be using along with the notebook that we are using today. You can revert to this later. I just quickly want to show you the data sets as well. We have three CSV files over here: economy of US, life expectancy data, and Spotify YouTube sample. When you are working with Kaggle and you want to include a certain data set into your notebook, you will essentially click on add input. Then you will copy the URL of the data set that I've provided to you, and then we'll click on the plus sign. So essentially, this will automatically add the data set over here. Now, when you want to get the link to a certain file in this data set, you just press the copy button, and this is how you generate the link. And well, that's how you generate the path to your file. All right, with that, let me also tell you that you have 5 versions of this notebook available, and there are some things in the last version that we may cover in the next lecture. So with that, let's get started. I'm going to import pandas, and I'm going to use a file that is the Spotify YouTube sample. So I just enter the path to that file into my read CSV command. Just give me a second. I will just try adding the data again. Perfect. So I will give you guys a quick recap, and we will walk through a few pandas commands that we have already looked at. For instance, dot head shows you the first 5 entries in your data set. And this is part of your process of exploratory data analysis, you can say, where you're just trying to understand what your data looks like. And just like that, I can see that I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9 columns in my data set. 10 actually. If I remove the dot head command and I just display this, it tells me how many rows and columns I have in my data set as well. Within your dot head command, अगर आप एक certain number specify करें, for instance 3 or 1 or 10, so it will actually show you that certain number of rows from the beginning. Similarly, you have the dot tail command, which shows you the last 5 entries by default and the last k number of entries if you send k as an input. Next, we have the dot shape command, which tells you the number of rows against the number of columns in your dataset. So I have 20,718 rows across 10 columns. Using dot columns, you can directly list all the columns in your dataset. This is referenced to as an index, which is an object type data structure in pandas. In order to look at some general information about your dataset, you use the .info command, which tells you the name of each column against how many non-null values exist in your column against the data type of that column. And by default, अगर आपके column में strings stored है, तो pandas will treat them as objects as opposed to directly telling you that it's a string. when I look at this thing over here, it tells me कि comments के column में I have 20,149 non-null values. That essentially means that I have over 500 missing entries in my column. All right, let's look at how you can understand some basic numerical attributes. You use the dot describe command. By default, what dot describe does is okay, it grabs all your numerical columns and it shows you the summary statistics of your numerical columns, including the count, mean, standard deviation, your quartiles, median, and the minimum and maximum values. Essentially, it's quite useful when you're getting started. For certain non-numerical values, since obviously you can't do this, we have an interesting function called dot value counts. Dot value counts essentially ये करता है कि it will tell you the unique values that exist in a particular column against the number of types that that unique value exists for. So for instance, when I do this for album type, I have to call it on a particular column. So I know that there are three unique values over here: album, single, and compilation. I also know that most of the values, over 14,900 entries, are from the album type album. So if I write dot n unique, it tells me the number of unique values, which I know is three. If I remove n from this command, it just lists all the unique values instead. For numerical attributes, Pandas allows you to very easily compute the minimum, the mean, the maximum, the count, etc. You just have to refer to a particular column. I could have just as well directly passed views over here as well. And I can do this for likes, comments, or any other numerical feature. Oh, similarly, you have dot sum. That is it as far as some background is concerned. Are there any questions up until this point before we move on to problems? All right, moving on to a few problems that we're going to look at. Even if you guys do not volunteer your solutions, I would strongly suggest that you grab a paper and a pen and at least try writing down the solution that intuitively comes to mind. The thing about pandas programming is that essentially it's quite simple, but you're not going to get the hang of it unless you practice it a lot. With that, let's begin with some simple filtering queries. Suppose I want you to select the attributes of all songs by the artist Ed Sheeran. Can someone tell me how I would do so? मैं actually sample data को DF as in data frame name कर रही हूँ, because well, it's just easier to write down commands with that. So how do I do this? This is the column, and I want to select this artist from this column. Can someone tell me how we would do that? Can someone tell me what this is? How do I interpret this output? So guys, essentially this is a Boolean array. And जब आप कोई simple condition लिखते हैं, so by default, it gives you a Boolean array, which is false against all the indexes where your condition does not hold true and true otherwise. And let's call this artist at Sheeran, and I can just store this in a variable. Now, if I take this variable और मैं इसको अपने data frame के अंदर डाल दूं, so now it will select all the rows where this condition is true. Alternatively, I don't actually need a separate variable for this, and I can just do it like that as well. And it works exactly the same way. Moving on, select the top 10 entries of single type albums. Can someone tell me how I would do so? Ye album type, I believe that's the column. Yeah. All right. So first of all, I want to filter out those that are single. Then I take this and pass it to my data frame. And I have 5,000 rows and 10 columns. How do I filter out the top 10 entries now? So यहाँ पे आप use करेंगे dot head command and then I just pass 10 to it. Of course, you would observe that the indexes have not changed at all. In Pandas, you have a dot reset index command and उसके बाद ये खुद ही update हो जाते हैं starting with 0. Next, you have to find all the songs which have more than 10 million views. So I'm just going to go ahead and add this solution. It's fairly simple. I'm referring to this column views is greater than 10 million. And then of course I will pass this to my data frame. And this is what I've obtained. Now I know that there are over 16,000 songs that have more than 10 million views. Let's look at some basic Boolean operations. And with that, I'm going to tell you कि और के लिए आप ये operator use करते हैं. And के लिए you have to use this operator in Pandas. So filter songs that are licensed or have an official video available. I'm just going to display the first two entries so that we just remember what our data set looks like. So I am looking for rows where licensed is equal to true and where official video is also equal to true. So df licensed equals true. This is my first Boolean condition. I'm going to put it inside parenthesis and my next condition, official video double equals true. And this will give me a simple Boolean array or a Boolean series. अगर आप ये brackets miss कर दें तो फिर this will definitely give you an error, so you'd have to be careful about that. It's an or condition, so won't we use Serish, do you mind turning your mic on? I don't understand your question. बल्कि for future reference, किसी का भी question हो तो feel free to turn your mic on and ask.
It
Yes.
says filter songs that are licensed or that have an
Oh, oh, you're absolutely right. I misread that. Thank you. So, in either case, आपने ये parenthesis नहीं miss करने. This will give you an error. Now I can just pass this entire thing into my data frame and this is what I get. So if we just look carefully, we will see कि सारी rows में licensed is true and official video is also true.
over here. Can we also do dot head just
Yeah,
to get
yes,
okay?
yes, you can always do dot head. Dot head series के ऊपर भी work करता है and data frame के ऊपर भी work करता है. Look, now you have the first 5 rows जिनके लिए ये condition true है. You can
Makes
even
sense.
pass something to dot head or you could do dot tail. Okay. Now get all the tracks from albums where album type is album with more than 50, 500,000 streams. So यहाँ पे हम dot head कर ही लेते हैं in fact so that this is still visible to you guys. And I will pause over here for a few seconds because I want everyone to try and attempt this on their own. All right, would someone like to volunteer a solution now? Or shall I just go ahead and solve this? Okay, so I'm going to solve this. df album underscore type double equals album. That's your first condition. Of course, I'm going to put it in parenthesis and df streams, oh, it's just stream, is greater than 500. Okay, so essentially that works pretty much fine. I have 77,000 such rows. Why don't I add a dot head over here as well so that this is visible to us? Select all songs with more than 5 million views and fewer than 100,000 likes. So I'm just going to go ahead and add the solution to this one because it's fairly similar to question number 5. So df views is greater than 5 million and df likes is less than 1 million. So essentially, I have 6,217 such rows. All right, so I have an interesting question over here, which I will want everyone to take 15 to 20 seconds to think about. I have 4 commands over here जिन्हें मैं variables A, B, C and D में store कर रही हूँ. And I want to understand that which of these will return a series and which will return a data frame. So just think for a few seconds and then I will show you the solution to this. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and ask you guys, will A return a series, yes or no? Anyone? A आपको series नहीं return करेगा because although I am selecting a series, I am essentially converting it to a data frame with this command. Will B return a series to you? No, B will also give you a data frame because you're simply putting a condition on your data frame. You're just filtering stuff out. Just, by the way, I'm going to change this to DF because we're no longer using the variable name sample data. Will C give you a series? C essentially will give you a series because you're only selecting one column. D will not give you a series because you are selecting a list of columns. बेशक उस list के अंदर सिर्फ track है, but you are selecting a list. So only C is giving you a series, the rest are giving you data frames. With that, let's move on to a few indexing and slicing questions. So let's look at question number 8. I want you to use dot lock to select the first 5 rows and then display only the artist track and views columns. I will pause over here for a few seconds. All right, so let's go ahead and solve this. df.log, and then log के अंदर आपके पास दो arguments होते हैं. First, you are passing either a condition on what rows to select, or you are directly passing a slice of rows or a list of indexes of those rows. Well, not indexes, particularly index labels. So since I want to select the first five, this is how I would do it. 0 till 5, या आप 0 ना भी लिखें तो it's all right. Then comma, I am going to pass this thing as a list. And that is how that works. Are there any questions up until this point? Okay, I want you guys to think about how you can do the exact same thing using ilog instead. And for your information, I'm just displaying the head of the data frame. All right, can someone tell me how I can do this using ilog? Can someone tell me the difference between log and ilog? All right, so your log operator will essentially iterate over labels, and यहाँ पे आपके पास जो एग्जाम्पल है ये 0 1 रोज के लेबल्स हैं. At the same time, इनके indexes भी 0 1 ही है, but to contradict this, or rather to clarify this, let me show you a different example. This example, यहाँ पे इंडेक्स का लेबल 2 है, बट इस इंडेक्स के लेबल 2 का नंबर जो है, द इंडेक्स ऑफ द फर्स्ट इंडेक्स यू मे से इज एक्चुअली 0. 0 के अगेंस्ट वी हैव 2, 1 के अगेंस्ट we have 6, 2 के अगेंस्ट we have 8, 3 के अगेंस्ट we have 29. So if I were to apply dot log over here, then I would have to specify these indexes. On the other hand, if I was applying dot log, I would just write 0 1 2 3. This is an important distinction that you must remember. So if I use dot ilog, I can still do 0 till 5. That shouldn't really matter because, well, आपके पास labels भी यही है यहाँ पे rows के, और indexes भी यही हैं. However, this thing will not work. Now I want to check कि artist जो है वो 0 के ऊपर है, so I will just select 0 over here, and then track is the first one, the first index within the columns, and then views is the 0 1 2 3 and 4. This is how ilog will give me the same result. Are there any questions up until this point? All right, let's move on then. So here I will show you guys another question where I
Uh,
want you to, yeah, go
I
ahead.
think how
How?
we would have used iloc in the above example where indexing was 2, 6, 8, 8, 29.
Oh, I can actually show you that. सो सपोज कि हम इसको सेव कर लेते हैं कहीं पे. Suppose I save it in a variable called x. All right, and just for our information, I will do this. So let's try and use lock over here. अगर मैं lock के अंदर 2 डालूं तो ये वाली रो सेलेक्ट करेगा because यहाँ पे पहली रो का इंडेक्स लेबल 2 है. This is what I get. All right. Well, the format is different, lekin this is exactly the row that it has extracted for me. I can do 2 till 3 actually, and then it will make more sense. On the other hand, if I use dot ilog over here, so let's see how that changes. अब उसने यहाँ पे start किया है because, well, right now it's kind of like this. It's, you can interpret it as a dictionary. 2 के 0 के against 0th index पे you have 2, first index पे you have 6, second index पे you have 8. And if I just display the first 5 entries instead, so you will see के third index के against you have 29, and then fourth index के against you have 37. So let me make myself a little more clear right now. I use dot lock and I want dot lock to start at 5 and end at 30. What do you think the expected output is? कौन सी rows आएंगी? And more importantly, कितनी rows आएंगी?
4 rows?
4 rows. Can you tell me which 4?
The first four.
No, that's not true. Because I'll tell you what, this is like ये 5 से start करेगा और 5 के against इसको कुछ भी नहीं मिल रहा. तो उसके बाद immediately 6 आता है, फिर 8, फिर 29. So ये तीनों rows capture होंगी.
Makes sense.
Alright, within this range वो देखेगा किन rows के index labels match करते हैं. Let's try it out. See? What do
Yes,
you
makes
think
sense.
will happen if I replace this with iLock? अब कितनी rows आएंगी? So अब ये मुझे essentially 25 rows देगा, 5th से लेके 30th तक. See? Because it's not iterating over these labels any longer, it's iterating over indexes. Even though यहाँ पे I had only displayed the first 5. So if I were to do it like this, for instance, तो उसने first 3
Oh,
display कर दिए. अगर
makes
मैं
sense.
dot lock में डालूं तो सिर्फ ये वाला display करेगा because nothing else is meeting that condition. I hope that answers your question.
Yes, yes, does.
Okay, wonderful question. This is very important. Okay, so let's move on. I will pause over here and give you guys a few seconds to think about which of these commands will return an entire data frame and which will return a series. All right, can someone tell me what A should contain? What am I doing here? I am selecting start से लेके end तक सारी rows and start से लेके end तक सारे columns. So A will contain the entire data frame. What will B contain?
Only the first row and all columns?
Perfect. The first row, since I'm only selecting 0 and 0 से end तक सारे columns, what will C contain?
First and second row and all columns.
You're almost right. All columns will be selected, but only the first row will be selected because
Yeah,
ye
yeah. Oh,
0
yeah.
till
Yeah,
1
yeah.
hai. Yeah, and 1 is not included. What about the last command?
All rows and what first column.
Yeah, perfect. So जहाँ पे सिर्फ first column एक ही column select हो रहा है वहाँ पे you have a series. Similarly, जहाँ पे सिर्फ एक row select हो रही थी वहाँ पे भी you have a series. Other than that, you have a data frame. There
How
is
do we
one,
do this
yeah.
distinction between series and data frame?
A series is like just one single column. लेकिन मैं एक single column को use करके भी data frame बना सकती हूँ. Let me just quickly show you. So this is my data frame. If I select this, so this is my series now. अगर मैं इसकी type print करूँ for instance, so now I have a series. But at the same time, अगर मैं artist को pass करूँ within a list of columns, तो ये data frame बन जाएगा. And you see how the view is different as well. A data frame of this many rows and one column. Now if I display the type, it will give me a data frame. So this is also an important distinction. कि आपके पास कुछ different data structures हैं जो pandas में use होते हैं. And
Make-
within a data frame, I can actually have multiple columns as well. I hope that makes sense.
Yes, and we can do the similar for series as well.
No, in a series, you can only select एक single column. See,
Okay.
because आप directly use कर रहे हैं, so सिर्फ इसमें एक ही column जाता है. A series is actually needed जब आपने conditioning करनी होती है. When you're doing filtering and stuff, तो you do it with a series. जैसे कि ये वाली example थी, ये मैं data frame के ऊपर नहीं कर सकती. Make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, so I want to show you guys one very important distinction between lock and iLock. It must have been discussed in class as well, but well, for my life, I haven't understood why they do it this way, but it is what it is. So, suppose I do this. What is the expected output of the command above and the command below? सो ये आपको फर्स्ट टू रोज सेलेक्ट करके देगा जब आप इसे आई लॉक में डालेंगे एंड फर्स्ट थ्री रोज सेलेक्ट करके देगा जब आप इसे लॉक में डालेंगे सो दिस इज वन important distinction between lock and I lock. Lock is inclusive on both sides. उसने टू को भी इंक्लूड किया है. But I lock is exclusive on the ending index. Two itself is not included. So this is just the way that it is in pandas.
Because we have
And
not defined columns here, that's why it's giving all the columns.
yeah, that's why it's giving all the columns. So if I were to select one column, oh, so this is how that would work. अभी ये series है. अगर मैं list of columns दूंगी तो ये data frame हो जाएगा.
Makes sense.
Similarly, iLog के अंदर तो आप indexes देते हैं. So यहाँ पे भी essentially it works the same way. And on that note, you can do this slicing thing over here as well. But what we saw happened here is कि जब मैंने artist से views तक से artist से likes तक select किया तो likes is also included because lock is always inclusive. iLock में ऐसे नहीं होता. If I select 0 till 1 तो essentially सिर्फ 0th column select होगा.
Makes sense.
Are there any questions at this point? Okay, so I think let's move on then. I have some aggregation and sorting questions. You are required to find the row. Okay, quickly, let's display some of the data frame over here so we know what we're working with. Find the row with the maximum number of views. I will actually give you guys a few seconds to try and work out a solution. All right, can someone tell me how we can approach this solution? Okay, so let me tell you. आप data frame में से select करें views dot max, because if you remember we discussed कि numerical attributes के ऊपर आप directly dot max dot min dot mean dot sum कर सकते हैं. And suppose I just store this somewhere. I've stored it in a variable, max views. Now I just have to find the row where the number of views are equal to the max views. See, now I have a Boolean array. If I pass it to my data frame, so it will automatically select that row. And essentially, you don't really need a separate variable for this either. Even if you do just that, it still works perfectly fine. But I always feel like it's less confusing if you break down a question is nature into multiple steps. All right, let's look at question number 11. Find the total number of views for all tracks by Sick Legend, who's apparently an artist. So I will select artist. So यहाँ पे I have selected all the rows where the artist is Sick Legend. But now I have to find the total number of views, right? Suppose I save this data frame somewhere. So अब technically मैंने सिर्फ ये करना है कि इस data frame के views का sum calculate करना. And this is how I will do that. And again, essentially, you can do this without using a separate variable as well. And you can just do it that way. But again, I find it less confusing if you break down a question like that into multiple steps. Okay, extract the artist name and track name for any tracks with the least comments. And I will pause over here and give you guys a few seconds to try and work this solution out on your own. All right. Can someone tell me how we're going to do this? So, guys, first of all, I will find the minimum number of comments. And let's see कि कितने minimum comments हैं. Essentially 0. So now what I will do is that I will Select all the rows with the minimum number of comments. Okay, so apparently there are 499 such rows. And I only want the artist name and track name. तो ये तो बहुत सिंपल है. जो मेरे पास ये वाला डेटा फ्रेम आया है, suppose I save this somewhere. Let's call it minimum comments data frame. Now, from my minimum comments data frame, I need to select the artist names and the track names. So that
We
is
can
how I
also
will.
use iLock or lock here.
Interesting. Yeah, we could do that. Tell me, how should we do that?
We can do dot lock
Dot lock.
and then all rows and just artist and track column.
Yeah,
Art-
perfect. We can do that. All rows and artist and track. This will essentially work exactly the same
yeah,
way. And interestingly, आप यहाँ पे all rows की जगह condition भी डाल सकती हैं. So let me just show you how you will do that. Just going to cut down the number of steps. Look, that's pretty cool actually. Lock allows you to do that. So शुरू में I have the condition and then बाद में I have the columns that I'm selecting.
makes sense. Like we can do that for like any condition.
Yeah, absolutely. ये condition जो है मैं दो तीन conditions को combine भी कर सकती हूँ. I can do it like that as well. df views double equal 0.0 and that will still work. So minimum comments वाले उन artists और tracks को मैंने filter out कर लिए जिनके views 0 है.
Makes
So
sense.
it's pretty cool the amount of things that Pandas allows you to do, and there are more than, well, you don't have just one way of doing a single thing. Alright, so now I want you to sort the data frame by views in descending order, and I will help you guys recall this function here. df.sortValues. Sort values के अंदर एक argument जाता है, and that is the column on the basis of which you want to sort it. So by views. उसके बाद इसमें एक और जाता है argument which is ascending ka flag. Either it is set to true or it is set to false. If I set it to false, so it will sort my data frame in a descending order. All right, and well, we can very clearly observe कि सबसे टॉप पे आपके पास मैक्सिमम व्यूज है एंड एज यू गो डाउन तो फिर वो नंबर डिक्रीज करता है. I can sort on the basis of multiple columns as well, by the way. So suppose I want to sort on the basis of views and comments. But here it's very important to understand how this works actually. पहले ये views की basis पे पूरे data frame को sort करेगा. उसके बाद suppose कि you have 5 tracks जिनके same number of views थे. फिर उन 5 को वो internally adjust करेगा by sorting them on the basis of the number of comments. So essentially अगर सारे columns में सारी rows में number of views distinct थे, so in that case doing this will actually make no difference at all. Are there any questions at this point? All right, so now I want you to extract the top 10 most viewed songs, and I will pause over here for a few seconds and let you guys think about how you're going to do this.
We can do the same thing, but like dot head 10.
Perfect. df dot sort values by views. That's exactly how you will do that. Oh, ascending को तो मैं भूल ही गई. Ascending equals false. Oh, most viewed songs के लिए ascending would have to be equal to true actually. No, no, it has to be equal to
It
false.
has
My
to be
bad.
false.
Yeah, yeah, you're right. It has to be false.
We could have done tail as well if we did the other thing.
Oh, yeah, that's an excellent observation. अगर आप tail कर रहे हैं तो फिर आप bottom से pick कर लें 10
Yeah.
rows and it will work exactly the same way then. Okay, now you have to extract only the artist names for the three least liked songs. I will just keep this open over here and give you guys a few seconds to think about this.
We could do the same thing, but we could do with head only three,
Okay.
and we can store it in a separate data frame, and then we can just
Acha, but you will sort it on the basis of likes, right?
likes now. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Ascending को हम true रख लेते हैं and
And the first three head dot. Yeah.
the first three. So मैं इन first three के लिए actually directly भी इस तरह select कर सकती हूँ artist name.
Okay, okay.
Alright? बल्कि interestingly आप इसको पीछे भी move कर सकते हैं and it still works exactly the same way. Alright guys, are there any questions at this point? Okay, I'm going to go over another set of problems now using the exact same data set, but there are ये तो solutions हैं. Just give me a second. So, for your reference, for each practice set, you have a separate file on solutions available for your information as well. Okay, so how do you add a new column? In Pandas, this is fairly simple. This is how you create a simple data frame. इसको डिक्शनरी पास होती है. सपोज कि मेरे पास कॉलम ए है with 1 2 and 3, column B है with 5 6 7, and that's it. So now if I display my data frame, that is what it looks like. If I create a new list like this 10 20 30, and I want to add a new column to my data frame called column C, और मैं इसमें ये list भेज दूं, so essentially it will work perfectly fine. This can either be a list or it can be a series. This is just to tell you कि एक नया column कैसे create होता है in Pandas. Now let's see what we have to do. Add a new column called engagement that calculates engagement by summing up likes and comments. Maybe if you were doing this in regular Python, you would have to have a loop and you would have to iterate over each individual index. In Pandas, this is very simple. Engagement equals df likes plus df comments, and I think that that is so cool क्योंकि आपको और कुछ करने की जरूरत नहीं पड़ रही. I believe maybe it was comment. Just give me a second. Maybe this was just like ये तो likes ही है.
The other is comments.
Oh, I see. No, that's weird. It still doesn't work. So let me just quickly see if I'm not spelling something right. Oh my god, मेरे data frame में तो A B C है वो overwrite हो गया है variable. Okay, so right over here, this has been introduced. So I mean, it's fairly simple in Pandas. If I wanted to create a new columns called likes in thousands, so I could simply literally do this as well, and that would also work. So personally, that I find that very cool about Pandas. Anyway, let's begin from here again. हम कुछ entries display कर लेते हैं and let's move on to the next question. Add a new column called official licensed video that is true only if the video is an official video and is licensed. I'm actually going to show you guys how to do this. Again, you have ways of doing this using a dot apply command as well. But if I'm not wrong, this should work just fine. df official video. अच्छा ये ट्रू होगा जब ये दोनों ट्रू है तो आई थिंक कि एक सिंपल एंड कंडीशन भी वर्क कर जानी चाहिए. Interestingly, licensed is spelled wrong. Okay, let's see. Well, you know what? That works perfectly fine. Fairly simple. Now you have to drop the columns
Where
licensed and official video. This is a part of data preparation, and that's kind of my bad because you will cover this in the later lectures.
where did
But
we
yeah,
define the condition where where both of them are true?
अच्छा ये आपको क्वेश्चन में कहा हुआ है कि इस कॉलम की वैल्यू ट्रू होगी जब ऑफिशियल वीडियो भी ट्रू हो और लाइसेंस भी ट्रू हो.
Yeah, so where have we done that? Like where official video and license both are true.
Look, आपने अगर एंड कंडीशन लगा दी तो इसके तो टू ही पॉसिबल आउटकम्स हैं. अगर वन एंड वन हुआ तो वन आ जाएगा. अगर जीरो एंड वन हुआ तो जीरो आएगा. अगर वन एंड जीरो हुआ तो भी
Yeah.
जीरो आएगा. जीरो एंड जीरो पे भी जीरो आएगा. Okay,
Yes.
so I'm going to show you guys how you drop columns. So columns equals and आप इसमें पास कर देंगे licensed and official video. I think that that should work. चले गए columns? Yeah, चले गए. But either way, you can ignore this for now because we will revisit these things when we look at data cleaning. Okay, sorting a data frame. We've already looked at a few sorting functions. So, all right, sure, we can do this. Sort the data frame by views in descending order. So df dot sort values by equals views. Descending equals true. And display the artist names and
Uh, Descending would be false because it's in
अच्छा
descending order.
descending order में करना है. Yeah, you're right. And display the names of the artists. So artist हमने select कर लिया and what else and track. अच्छा ये आपने select सिर्फ first 5 entries के लिए करना है. I hope that makes sense. Let's look at question 4. Sort the data frame by artist and then by views in descending order. Display the first 10 entries. So I'm going to show you guys this because I think ये भी हम try कर चुके हैं already. So पहले artist and उसके बाद views. Ascending equals true dot head 10 to select the first 10 entries. And there we go. So there are a few string operations that you will find helpful. They are fairly simple, can be a bit daunting at first, like you will find these to be very helpful, especially in your projects and all. So find and display all the tracks where the track name starts with the letter S. Let me show you how you will do that. So आप कॉलम select करें track का. अगर वो string है तो remember कि by default pandas में इसका data type object आता है. So आप .str लिखते हैं to convert it to a string. This is the first important thing. And then you can use different string operations on it. जैसे for instance numerical operations में आपके पास min, max and mean था, तो string operations में you have an operation that is called starts with. All right. So ये आपके पास boolean array आ गई. Now you can take this boolean array, pass it to your data frame, and it will filter out all the rows where this is true. And you can see कि सारी वो rows आ गई हैं where the track name starts with S. There are 1954 such rows. This is one main thing to remember. Okay, it has to have a .str in there. And I can just as well do this. Starts with के अंदर एक substring भी आ सकती है. Now I have 500 such rows. If I select they instead, so I only have 3 such rows. Similarly, starts with के अलावा you have ends with as well. So ends with में हम क्या डालें? P डाल के देख लेते हैं. 175 such rows. Similarly, you have contains as well. Contains, maybe it's going to find that substring. Let's see if that works. So if I write hi, it actually gives me 866 rows. Are there any questions up until this point?
No.
Okay, so I will show you guys one other interesting string function, which is len. So ये आपको length return करता है. Now suppose कि मैं इसको एक नई कॉलम में स्टोर कर लेती हूँ. Length of track name, and that's all that I have to do. It's quite simple. See, length of track name, and अब ये मुझे बता रहे हैं कि कितने characters हैं हर जगह पे. Fairly
Did it
interesting.
add a column? Did this
Yeah, it
just.
added a column. Look, क्योंकि इस
Oh,
वाली
okay, okay,
चीज
okay,
ने
okay.
मुझे
Yeah,
या सीरीज रिटर्न की और ये मैंने उस सीरीज को एक नए कॉलम में स्टोर कर
yeah,
दिया.
makes sense.
Oh, interesting. इस पे वैसे ही मैंने एक नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन रखा हुआ था. So create a new column called track length. I did not actually remember that, interestingly. And now I can display the first 5. Actually, if I don't write head, it still works perfectly fine. अब ये column भी मेरे पास पड़ा हुआ है, so I'm just gonna get, I'm gonna get rid of this. There we go. Now find the tracks that contain the substring hardstyle in their names. I will give you guys a few seconds to try and write down this query yourself.
We'll do similar and we'll just do it with contains head style.
Yeah, perfect. So df
Track,
artist dot,
track, tracks.
oh, track.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right, track. अब .str लिखना is important
Yeah,
for any string operation.
dot contains hard style.
Perfect. So ये तो आपके पास boolean data
And then
series आ
df,
गई.
you pass it to df. Yeah.
Yeah, perfect. And it gives me, well, this many rows. All right, I have a few questions on custom functions, lambda, dot apply. All of this is very important and can often be a bit daunting at first. Define a custom function to categorize views into low, medium, and high based on the following thresholds. Apply this function to create a new column called view directory. So we'll take this one step at a time. It takes a little time in getting used to, but जब आप लोग खुद ऐसी queries लिखेंगे, तो you will find that this gives you an amazing level of command though. So suppose I call my function classify views and इसको एक views की value pass होगी, and well, my functions should be actually very simple. If views are greater than this number, I don't know, ये 100 million है शायद, so you will return hi. Else if views are greater than, well, this number, and views are less than this number, then you're going to return medium. Else return low. So ये function define हो गया. अब इस function को हम apply करेंगे. And this is how you will apply it. df, I want to apply it on a single column. जब आप single column पे apply कर रहे हो, तो recall lecture 4, I told you guys कि you do not need to specify the axis. अगर rows के ऊपर apply हो रहा हो, multiple columns हो, तो फिर you specify the axis. So right now I will select df views dot apply, and apply के अंदर I will just pass the name of this function. Let's see what that gives me. That gives me an error. Let me try and understand why. For int and float. Interesting. I don't know, maybe this will work. अच्छा, ये इसके साथ मसला है essentially. Maybe this will work. Yeah, this will work. So इसने आपको क्या return किया? इसने एक series return कर दिया. अब उस series को मैं कहीं पे receive कर सकती हूँ to, create a new column. We already know that. What is this new column called? It's called view category. Now let's display my data frame. Here I have view category, जिसमें medium, low और high की values हैं. So let me show you guys something interesting. If we recall, तो dot value counts आपको इसके statistics भी दिखा देगा. So 16,000 tracks ऐसे थे, 16,793 जिनके views low थे, then 3,625 in medium and 300 in high. Alright, so let's just display the first few rows and let's move on. Are there any questions at this point?
What does the classify views get in the parameter? Like you have
ये
written.
parameter में, let me tell you, अगर मैं इसको x से replace कर दूं, because actually let's make this a little more clear. So मैंने एक series के ऊपर dot apply के अंदर इसको कॉल किया था. So dot apply backend पे ऐसे वर्क करता है कि इस series की एक एक वैल्यू के ऊपर वो iterate करेगा और उस वैल्यू को इस फंक्शन से पास करेगा, और ये फंक्शन कोई एक वैल्यू उसके अगेंस्ट रिटर्न कर देगा.
Okay, okay.
So it kind of like just compiles all of those values into a series. Got it?
Yes.
Okay. Let's move on then. Create a custom function that classifies a track as highly engaged if the sum of its likes and comments exceeds 50,000. All right, this is interesting. I'm just copying this over here and then we'll build off of it. इसका नाम हम गेट एंगेजमेंट रख लेते हैं. ठीक है, सपोज कि मैंने सम कहीं और नहीं स्टोर किया हुआ, इस फंक्शन को एक पूरी रो पास होती है. सो आई एम जस्ट रेफरिंग टू रो ओवर हियर. अब उस रो के अंदर मल्टीपल एट्रीब्यूट्स हैं. सो सपोज इफ रो लाइक्स प्लस रो comments is greater than 50,000, so I wanted to return highly engaged. और क्या रिटर्न करता है? ऑलराइट, फिर हम नॉट हाईली एंगेज्ड कह देते हैं इसको. सो द डिफरेंस इज कि ऊपर वाला कस्टम फंक्शन अप्लाई हो रहा था ऑन अ सीरीज ओनली. So it was getting only every single value from the given column. Now it's getting the entire data frame. मतलब इसको एक row जा रही है at a time. So let me show you what changes. df dot apply. I will give it the name of the function and then I have to give it the access as 1 as well. ऊपर मैंने access नहीं दिया because access by default 0 होता है. And 0 wala access works fine on one single column. But when I want it to iterate over rows instead, I have to tell it that the access is 1 now. So let's see. This is how that works. Of course, I can receive it in a...
Can you please explain this access thing again?
Yeah, sure,
And why are
absolutely.
you passing the entire row?
Okay, so जब आप custom function define करते हैं तो there are actually two ways of applying that custom function. या तो वो function सिर्फ एक ही column के ऊपर apply हो रहा है, like we saw in this example कि आपके पास सिर्फ views वाला column है जिसके ऊपर you are applying this function. तो आप simply उस series को select करते हैं, which is the views column वाली series. You write dot apply and you pass it the name or the definition of that function, and automatically it iterates over every single value in that column. यहाँ पे access by default back end के ऊपर 0 है, and access 0 means कि ये एक column के ऊपर iterate कर रहा है. On the other hand, अगर मैं इसमें से ये views हटा दूं तो फिर ये एक एक रो के ऊपर कॉल होगा. And then, well, in every single row, if I want to run this, so I need to specify the access as 1 because access 1 means कि okay, now you have to iterate over my rows. इसमें भी this should work fine. Let me show you how we can do that. अब x सिर्फ एक वैल्यू नहीं है कॉलम की, x एक पूरी रो है. So यहाँ पे I will actually have to select views उस रो के. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And if I just do it that way, so here this works fine as well. But of course, in this case, it's just simpler for me to call it on the single column. Now, I am calling it in such a way कि मैंने actually एक row में से multiple चीजों को use करके एक कोई value calculate करनी है. तो फिर I need to call it on the entire row and specify the access as 1. अब ये basically function पूरे data frame की एक एक row के ऊपर
Why
run
won't
हो
you
रहा
do
है.
it on a column, like particular columns rather than rows?
I'm sorry, could you come again?
Why can we do it like on a specific column rather than a row?
You can do it on a specific column as well, but इस question की requirement ऐसी है कि आपने दो columns को इकट्ठे देखना है, इसीलिए मुझे
Like,
उसको पूरी row pass करनी पड़ी. Because then a
can we
single
just like
value will
pick
not
lights
suffice.
and columns, comments, like their columns and just add them up? Like, can't we do that?
Yeah, that's actually a very good solution. अगर मैं इन दोनों को add करके एक नया column create कर लूं जिनमें इनका sum stored है, So फिर I can do it that way as well. Then it's much simpler actually. But you will be needing this for other purposes though.
Makes sense. Yeah.
All right. And now it says कि count the number of highly engaged tracks. So how will I do that actually? See, this is the part of the question जो रहता है. मैंने apply कर दिया data frame पे. Now how will I count the number of highly engaged tracks? ये मेरे पास एक series आ गई है. It's gonna be slightly technical, but let me show you how you can do that. Remember कि series के ऊपर अगर ये apply करें तो एक boolean array आ जाती है. So अगर इस boolean array को मैं यहाँ पे pass कर दूं तो मेरे पास ये length आ गई है 13,000. So I can actually just directly measure the length of this. See, in this case, I actually didn't need to create a separate column altogether. But you can break it down first, create a separate column, and then उस column पे भी आप ये condition लगा के check कर सकते हैं. That's why you guys actually have these notebooks available on Kaggle. Edit and copy पे click करें, and then experiment with it. See how things change when you change these commands. All right, let's move on then. I have some grouping and aggregation questions, but just a second. Are there any questions up until this point? Okay, so कुछ simple group by की queries हम देखेंगे because this is important. Group the data by album type and calculate the average views for each type. Store the result in a data frame. So I'm actually going to help you guys recall. We covered this in Thursday's lecture in lecture 4. So आप df dot group by करेंगे. Group by के अंदर आप specify करते हैं कि group करना किस basis पे है. So I want to group it based on the album type. And this returns to you a pandas data frame group by object. अगर मैं इसके groups को access करूं तो ये मुझे album के against बता रहा है कि कौन से indexes हैं मेरे data frame में जिन पे album type album है. Then the same goes for compilation and the same goes for, well, एक और भी थी but I can't find it here. Anyway, once you have grouped on the basis of album type, there is no use of creating these three separate data frames unless I apply an aggregation function on it. And this is how I would do so. Views dot mean. If I particularly want to store these results in a data frame, तो मैं dot to frame की command भी use कर सकती हूँ. But anyway, I don't mean to overcomplicate this. Let me show you guys an alternate way of doing this as well though. इसको हम ऊपर रख लेते हैं, comment out कर लेते हैं. And I can call this on a series as well directly. Let's see if that works. Why does that not work? Never mind. If I'm able to figure this out later, I will just update it in your solution. For now, I call the group by function. Group by के अंदर I tell it कि group करना किस basis पे है, and then I tell it कि उन groups के ऊपर किस column को aggregate करना है and कौन सा aggregation function लगाना है. Alternatively, this could have been min as well. And alternatively, I could tell it to aggregate on multiple columns as well. So for instance, views, comma, likes. All right, अभी automatically data frame बन गया. And alternatively, if I don't specify any columns at all, तो ये सारे कॉलम्स के ऊपर रन होता है. एंड इफ यू रिमेम्बर फ्रॉम द रीसेंट लेक्चर, तो मीन एक्चुअली क्रैश कर जाता है इन दिस सिचुएशन, बिकॉज जो ऑब्जेक्ट्स वाले कॉलम्स हैं, स्ट्रिंग्स वाले कॉलम्स हैं, उनका मीन नहीं कैलकुलेट हो सकता. However, if I write max, so then it works for every single column. For now, we're only going to do this for one column as required. Are there any questions at this point? All right, let's look at question number 11. Group the data by artist and find out how many tracks each artist has. Display the artists with more than 5 tracks. Let's break this question down and just focus on this part right now. फिर more than 5 वाली चीज को हम बाद में workout करते हैं. I will pause over here and give you guys a few seconds to think about this. All right, can someone tell me how I should approach this solution now? All right, so guys, df dot group by, and group आप करेंगे on the basis of artist. All right, and then you have to size. So इसने ऑटोमेटिकली काउंट कर दिया कि हर आर्टिस्ट के अगेंस्ट कितने ट्रैक्स हैं. ये डेटा इतना सिस्टमैटिक था कि आपके पास ऑलरेडी हर आर्टिस्ट के अगेंस्ट 10 ट्रैक्स ही अवेलेबल थे. So now if I want to display the artists with more than 5 tracks, so I will essentially just do this. And then I can pass this to my data frame because it's a Boolean. Oh, I cannot directly pass it to my data frame apparently. All right, let's look at question number 12. Find the total likes for each album and display the albums with the highest likes. So again, you're going to group